Family, if you walked in feeling the weight of a desert in your chest, listen closely. Silence is not absence. Silence is a workspace. There is an architecture of healing being built right now. Not on the surface, but deep underground.
The dust has settled on the promises I hold. The sun is beating down, relentless and bold. I shouted your name till my throat became dry, looking for clouds in a perfectly blue sky. But the stillness is heavy, it presses on me. Is this the desert where I'm meant to be? I know the feeling of standing alone, waiting for bread and just holding a stone. But the ground underneath is as hard as a wall, and I'm starting to fear that you won't catch my fall. The isolation is loud in my ears, counting the hours, the days and the years.
It's okay to say it hurts, but do you hear that low rumble? It's not thunder, it's the sound of waters breaking through the bedrock.
But faith is the evidence of things unseen, and you are the water that flows in between. The surface is cracking, the pressure is high. You're doing a work that is hidden from eyes. There are rivers beneath the sand, flowing strong through this weary land. You are working in the silence, you are working in the dark. You are the fire that starts with a spark. When I see a wasteland, you see a spring. When I hear the silence, I hear you sing. Oh, the sovereign hand is digging a well, breaking the drought where the shadows dwell. I used to think healing was instant and bright, a flash of your power to banish the night. But you took me into the laboratory of grace, a quiet, secluded and holy place. You're not just patching the wounds on my skin, you are rebuilding the structure within. It feels like a breaking, it feels like a death, but you are just making more room for your breath. You are the architect, sovereign and wise. You don't build on shifting ground, you don't compromise. You dig through the layers of pride and of fear, until the bedrock of faith is clear. I thought I was buried, but I was just planted, taken for granted the grace you had granted. The silence was heavy, but now it is sweet. I'm pouring my worship right here at your feet. I will not fear the dryness, for well is deep. I will not fear the sadness, for your promises you keep. Break the ground open, let the river rise. Open the floodgates, open our eyes. You are the source, you are the stream, you are the awakening inside the dream. Sovereign God, let your healing flow from the depths of the earth to the world we know. There are rivers beneath the sand, flowing strong through this weary land. Can you feel it? Flowing. You are working in the dark. You are the fire that starts with a spark. When I see a wasteland, you see a spring. When I hear the silence, I hear you sing. When the sovereign hand is digging a well, breaking the drought where the shadows dwell.
The ground is damp. Church, you were never alone in the desert. You were just under construction. The architect has finished his work. Drink deep, amen.
Family to the naked eye. Being buried looks just like being planted. But I came to tell you, you are not in a tomb, you are in a garden. The silence isn't God leaving, it's the sound of roots stretching deep.
The lights went out, the stage went dark. I found myself alone with just a beating heart. I thought your voice had faded with the sun. I thought the battle lost before it had begun.
But here within the crushing of the clay,
I feel a stirring that I can't explain away.
the noise has ceased, the crowds have all gone home.
And now I find you sitting on the throne.
If you are in that quiet room right now, don't rush to leave. The architect is inspecting the walls of your soul. I try to build a tower to the sky,
But you required a depth I couldn't quantify.
so you began to dig below the surface line.
To clear the wreckage of this pride of mine. It
Hurts to feel the shovel hit the stone, to realize how little I have truly known. But in this hollow place where I am stripped and bare, I finally breathe the grace of pure and holy air.
Oh, the shaking isn't here to tear me down. It's settling my feet on solid ground. The drought has only made my desperate spirit thirst for the rivers that are getting ready to burst. You are building me in the dark. You are binding up my heart.
where no eye can see. You are doing a work in me, sending roots down deep while the weary world is asleep. I will trust the silence, I will trust the night, for the architecture of healing is hidden from my sight. Lord, you're making me strong, you're making me whole, in the secret laboratory of my soul.
True strength isn't forged in the spotlight. It happens when you are alone, when the tears fall and nobody sees but him.
I felt the pressure and I wanted to escape. I didn't know that you were giving me a shape, a vessel capable of holding greater wine, a structure built by a design that is divine. This isolation is a holy incubation room, where resurrection life is conquering the gloom. I'm not abandoned, I am being reinforced. My life is anchored to the true and living source.
Can you hear it? Put your ear to the ground. The abundance of rain starts underground.
Beneath the bedrock where the water tables flow, there is a mystery that only broken people know.
The streams of mercy running underneath the sand are carving out a channel in this dry and weary land. The drought was necessary to make the roots go long,
To turn my weeping into a sturdy battle song. So let the darkness hover, let the seasons wait. I know my Father's love will never arrive late.
when I cannot trace you.
My roots go deeper,
The light is blinding.
my faith grows deeper.
You are the rock of ages.
You are my firm foundation.
I trust the
To
architect.
every palpitation,
Dig down deep.
I surrender to the shovel.
Hear the debris.
Level every piece of rubble.
The waters rise.
Let the healing flow.
I am rooted in the one who will never let me go. You are building me
Don't despise the dark place. It's where the roots grow, the breakthrough is coming. But the strength is being built right now. We trust you, Father.
Family, the pressure you feel isn't the end. It is the laboratory. The silence isn't empty. It is pregnant just beneath the crust of your dry situation. A river has been gathering in the dark, and tonight it reaches.
The dust on my tongue tasted like years of defeat. I walk through the valley with blistered and weary feet. I thought the silence was God turning his face away, leaving me stranded in the heat of the day. But I didn't know that the thirst was a map leading me down to the place where the rock would crack.
He sees the cracks in the clay.
The architect works with the door shut tight. He's mixing the mortar in the middle of the night. You thought you were lost in the noise of your fear, but the Father was leaning in close just to hear. He was waiting for pressure to build up the force, so the river of spirit could chart a new course. Can you feel the vibration? The holy sensation of waters deep under the floor. We can't hold it back anymore. Here comes the breaking through. The Spirit is flooding you. The silence is ending. The river is descending to make all things new. It's rushing, it's roaring. The healing is pouring out of the secret place. The violence of grace is breaking through.
Daughter, your tears were never wasted. They were the reservoir.
I sat in the quiet and wrestled with ghosts.
I questioned the captain, the Lord of hosts. Why is the vessel so dry and so cracked? Why does it feel like your love is pulled back?
But the silence wasn't absence, it was the womb where the seed of the promise began to bloom. To build something deeper, to dig something wide, a canyon for mercy to flow from your side. Son, the pressure wasn't to crush you, but to push the living water to the surface.
He held back the tide till the ground was prepared, till the pride was removed and the soul was bare.
A sovereign design in the architecture of ache. He knew exactly how much you could take. No more dry seasons, no more delay. The storm from the well is rolled away. The underground current is breaking the crust, turning to diamonds the piles of dust. Prophesy to the aquifers of your soul. Command the dry ground to open up. I speak to the dry ground. Drink and live. I
The silence was just the sound of the water getting closer.
Deep calls to deep.
Welcome the flood,
Breaking through.
Family, what if the cracking sound you heard wasn't your life falling apart, but the sound of your capacity expanding to hold His glory?
I sat inside the silence of the room, convinced that I was buried in a tomb. The walls were shaking, dust was in the air. I called your name but couldn't find you there. I thought the cracks were signs of my decay, that everything I loved was washing away. But now I see the hammer in your hand was shaping me according to the plan.
You weren't ignoring prayers that I had prayed. You were designing foundations to be laid. The architect was working while I wept, preparing promises that you have kept. I saw the rebel, you saw the design. I saw the end, you saw the borderline,
where human weakness meets the grace of God, and flowers bloom upon the broken side. The water was waiting beneath the dry ground. The river is rising, we can hear the sound. Oh, you are filling the cracks with your glory. You are rewriting the end of the story. Where there was emptiness, now there is way. Your sovereignty opens the floodgates of grace. The pain was a pathway, the wound was a door to carry a glory I couldn't before. You heal every fracture with power divine. I trust in the architect's sovereign design.
Church, if you never felt the ache of emptiness, you would never know the joy of being filled. Let Him pour into you tonight.
I wouldn't know the healer without the scar. I wouldn't know the morning star without the dark. You hollowed out a canyon in my soul to make a riverbed where mercy rolls. But through the fishes of my shattered pride,
Your Holy Spirit flows deep and wide. So thank you for the chisel and the stone, for building
cracks are all closing, not with gold, but with spirit. Can you hear it? Can you hear it? The architect is done. The healing has begun. It is finished, you are filled.
Family, that pressure you felt wasn't the walls closing in. It was living water rising against the dam. The architect has finished his work. If you're ready for the flood, lift your hands. Where we thank you to the drought is just preparation for the deluge. I spend my seasons walking on the dust, thinking the promise had turned into rust.
But underneath the surface of my fear,
A subterranean river was drawing near.
the dry ground cracks, but not from decay.
It opens out to let the water have its way. Can you hear that rumble? It's not thunder from above, it's the answer coming from within.
I heard the whisper deep inside the clay,
A sound of rushing waters far away.
the sovereign hand was digging out the path,
Turning my sorrow into holy life. The pressure builds, the rocks begin to cry. The wellspring of your love is never dry. The wait is over, the dam gives way. The night is finally turned to day. What was hidden in the dark and deep is now a harvest that we get to reap. Here comes the overflow, here comes the rain, washing away the residue of pain. The sovereign architect
designed the flow
from the secret place
to the world below.
it's bursting forth, it's breaking out, a river of joy, a holy sound. Whatever was generated in the quiet is now a praise that causes a riot. It's the overflow.
Daughter, listen, those tears you cried in secret were just filling the reservoir of your testimony.
I didn't know the silence was a womb,
I thought I was buried inside a tomb,
but you were gestating a miracle there.
breathing life into my despair.
Now the banks cannot contain the tide of all the goodness you supplied.
It floods the house, it floods the street. Your victory is sweet.
So sweet. Look at the design. He engineered a channel so the water flows through you to heal others.
You are the master of the hidden word.
You never left me in the murk,
You carved the canyons in my stony heart.
so the rivers of your grace could start.
This isn't just for me, I realize now.
I am a vessel and I humbly bow.
From the laboratory of my grief,
You synthesized a living relief. Church, declare this with us. The drought is canceled. We are standing in the answer. When I say he is, you say faithful.
He is
songs of riot. It's the overflow. It's the overflow. No more dry seasons, only your grace, flooding every corner of this place. We stand in the river, deep and wide, with nothing left to hide.
What you thought was the end was just the drilling of the well. Go in peace and let the river run.
It flows, it flows.
From the deep to the deep,
The silence speaks.
the water seeks.
Thank you for the overflow.